Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming and listening to this press conference, which is with Ms. Hilal Elva, who's the Special Rapporteur on the Right to Food. So Ms. Elva will say introductory remarks, and then we'll take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to the press conference that I am trying to introduce my report as a kind of short summary. Actually, I am going to present this report Friday because of the scheduling problem. I was not able to present earlier. Then the press conference became early, but the Friday morning in third committee, I will be able to present my report to the government. So this is about agricultural workers' situation in relation to right to food, because they are major elements of our reaching available food, but they are among the world's hungriest people, and basically they have serious kind of insecurity issues to access to food while they are producing. So that's kind of paradoxical relationship that I try to make in my mandate. It would be a kind of the novelty about the agricultural workers, why I'm doing in Right to Food mandate, because basically worker situation is and the labor rights are handled by the ILO, International Labor Organizations. But I thought that would be a kind of important arena for me to enter while we are dealing smallholder farmers, we are dealing with the poverty, inequality, and the land issues, but we don't deal with the actual workers that they are working from farm to the table. There is a huge kind of chain of production that we are not paying attention properly. So that was the idea that I work on these issues, and turned out to be very important area. And what I did, now we are talking about 1.3 billion people in the world that working in the agriculture in the various kind of stages. And mostly these workers are developed and developing countries, various kind of size and the conditions. As you can imagine, they have the international human rights principles that they protect them, and at the same time, labor rights and labor laws that they are protecting them. So there are two different areas that we can deal with the protection, despite all these two areas of the laws that we available. Unfortunately, mostly they are out of protection. They are out of the social security. Mostly only 20% of the agricultural workers have social security, and also mostly they are subsistence farmers. Also, I consider subsistence farmers as agricultural workers because they work in a very small plot to produce food locally that, especially in developing countries, 90% of the food produced by them. So, but among the agricultural workers also, I focus in the report women, children, and migrant workers, because these are basically invisible and they are out of protection. Mostly women are working the care services, which without any salary. Children, exactly the same situation. Despite the ILO has several kind of convention to protect them, still because informality of the agricultural workers also immensely important. One of the area also what I focus on about the chemical use and pesticides in relation to agricultural workers. A year ago, I had another report on pesticides. I focus on the general impact of the pesticides in everyone, but this report I focus on impacts of the agricultural workers in relation to pesticides, which is extremely important. I work in my last report with the special rapporteur on toxics together, and I thought we would have a quite an important impact. And I'm repeating right now, and he is also repeating in another report about the workers, and not only agricultural workers. His report is a whole workers, and mine is focusing on the agricultural workers. Let me stop here, and if you have any question, that I'm ready to answer it.
Thank you. Maybe I could ask a question. Can you explain some of the effects of these pesticides on everyone and agricultural workers in particular? I presume they're negative effects.
Yes, it's extremely serious issue. The health effects are serious. There are either impacts because of the spraying pesticides and residues and excessive use of pesticides in relation to health, or also accidents. Accidents are more immediate death, but impact of pesticides are unfortunately kind of longer and slower. That's why we have difficulty to detect them. We can easily detect the accidents, but the accumulation of the chemicals impact on people's health is very serious. It could be important cancer action, or also important impact on the mental health, especially for children and young children. And young children actually are affected even when their mother's womb. That's a very serious issue. Even before they were born, they are subject which Alzheimer from the hyperactivity. You name it, very serious kind of issues. But these issues are not really directly connected in many cases. But there are some good news. I wouldn't say good news, but recently there was a case in the United States against the Monsanto company. And there was a worker in the school garden that he was using pesticides that produced by Monsanto, and it was known by the World Health Organization impact of health, and he's cancer patient right now. The San Francisco court really made a strong kind of connection between the way in which he used this particular pesticide and impact on his health, and they gave him huge amount of compensation. Unfortunately, he is in the process of dying. And there are other cases right now, it's coming, which is an important new thing that is giving the public much more understanding about pesticides. The most important for the workers, but we, our consumers, also are affected by pesticides, but not as much as they are. And there's another issue, the regulations and the protection is very much uneven among the developed and developing countries. In developed countries, there's a better kind of investigation and monitoring and the regulation, but in developing countries are not. But problem is because of the exporting food from the developing countries to developed countries, we basically receiving some fruits, especially that's subject to serious pesticides implementation. So we all are in danger one way or another, more or less. Of course, there's a tolerable level, but sometimes it gets accumulation of the more than one pesticides gets more serious.
Right, thank you. Well, thank you very much. We'll draw it to an end. Thank you.
Thank you very much.